I wrote it so people would call me absolutely genius. No, that's not true, and that's very, very nice of you to say. No, again, I really didn't give much thought to the form. I wanted to write a story for Valentine's Day for my friends. I had a book of words you need to know that was sitting on my desk, and I thought, oh, what if I told the story of a relationship just through dictionary entries, but not sort of standard one-paragraph dictionary entries, but more that the words are the catalyst for an emotion or for an experience or an event or something. It's just, the book is one long riff on words. And I didn't know if it was going to work at all, but I just started writing, and I did it alphabetically A to Z, and it was really interesting to see what came out, and that the words were the catalyst both for the narrator, but also for me, to just see what each word would really crystallize in my writing. I mean, I really just chose words that were in this one book that I had on my desk, this New York Times book of words you need to know, and I guess I needed to know them, and I decided not to think ahead. I wrote the majority of the book, and not without revision, so I don't want it to seem too easy, but in 2 weekends, like I just basically sat down with this word book and just wrote. I didn't want to overthink it, I didn't want to think ahead, I just went with it. And I think a lot of the spontaneity and a lot of the truth that comes out was because of that just barrage of words. It almost like a word association of me yelling out watermelon and you yelling out picnic. And I was just doing that in novelistic form. So it was interesting, and I think the reason you as a reader don't know what's coming next is pretty much because I, as the writer, didn't know what was coming next. I think elegy was the one that I wrote that, again, I just plopped the word, typed out elegy, noun, and didn't know what was going to come, and then this really, really interesting moment of this relationship, and one of the most critical moments of the relationship just came out from me free writing from that word. So that's probably my favorite. Of course, if you ask this again, like in an hour, I might have a different one, but that's the one that means the most to me, I think. Luckily, I enjoy both of them. I know that's just not choosing, but that's okay. I don't have to choose. There's no evil troll forcing me to choose. I really love both working with other people's words and working on my own, and shaping other people's stories as well as shaping my own. I think that I would miss either if they were gone. I think it helps to have started off in editorial. I think it would have been harder to find my own voice and then try to help other people find theirs. I think it was really nice to learn how to be a chameleon first, because being an editor really is being a chameleon, and teaching authors how to best sound like themselves, which is a challenge. But I did that first, and then I got to work on helping me try to sound best like me. And then once I found my voice, then of course trying to wreck it and writing books that are totally non-linear and trying to not use the same voice over and over again. So luckily I don't have to choose, and luckily none of my publishers force me to choose, and luckily the situations where I have to be both an editor and an author at the same time are few and far between, so I don't develop any dual personalities. My favorite try was Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist with Rachel Cohn. It just was, we started almost like with Lover's Dictionary, me just sitting down and writing. That's what Rachel and I did. We knew that the book was about two teenagers named Nick and Nora. We knew that they lived in New Jersey but were in New York for a night, and that it would take place in the night. That was it. And then I wrote the first chapter spontaneously, just sat down, wrote, emailed it to Rachel. She emailed it back to me with a new chapter, and that's how we did it. And the energy we generated and the surprise we had that we actually were pulling off writing a novel, because we just didn't know that this collaboration thing would work. It was so much fun. I mean, it really is the closest to magic I think I've ever had in my writing life. That other books, the magic has been on a sentence or a paragraph level. You write something like, wow, I guess I know that, and that was a way I never could have articulated out loud, but here I was writing and I managed to nail it. So I've had smaller moments, but that book was pretty much just one long revelation, that it was just so much fun. And I think part of the reason people like it, or readers like it, is because that energy that Rachel and I were generating between us really just played entirely out on the page. So, although I love all of my books equally, as far as writing experiences, I think Nick and Nora would probably win. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's awesome that we really turned the tide. Like when Boy Meets Boy, my first book, came out in 2003, it was part of a number of books by authors like Julian Peters and Brett Hartinger and Alex Sanchez, Lauren Myrickall, Maureen Johnson, that really changed the face of teen literature for gay and lesbian, bisexual teens. And because it coincided sort of with the rise of the internet, I mean, it really was interesting because not only were you changing the body of literature, but you actually were changing the lives of many of the readers who were suddenly seeing themselves reflected in a very authentic way where there hadn't been authenticity or even representation before. So it's amazing. I mean, we're all, those of us who are gay or lesbian writing this fiction, we're caught in this really wonderful, strange paradox that we're writing books that weren't available when we were teenagers, and that lead to a world that wasn't quite within reach when we were teenagers. And the fact that it is within reach now, and that the books really do not just reflect reality, but help create reality, it's extraordinary. And it's something that we really feel passionately about continuing doing. So, although I feel that that's just one subset, I think there are many areas in literature, especially teen literature, where you can have an effect. So it's not just for the queer kids. But I think for me specifically, I mean, that has been pretty remarkable to see. And I think Boy Meets Boy, the first book, it has a very ideal world, and I think one of the continual pleasures of my life is seeing how the real world slowly but surely starts to conform to that world, and things that I didn't think were possible 8 years ago when I wrote the book, or 9 years ago when I wrote the book, suddenly they're real, they're actual. So it's really cool. Oh my goodness, this one's hard. I just read Patti Smith's Just Kids, which was amazing. I actually got to read books about adults. It was awesome. Although they're very adolescent adults in that book. I think, oh goodness, I mean, a number of the books that I worked on I love. I love Siobhan Vivian's Not That Kind of Girl. I love Natalie Standiford's Confessions of the Sullivan Sisters. I love Pete Hopman's The Big Crunch, although I think technically that came out in 2011, but still, you must read it. And so many others. I can't, of course, list every book that I edited. I really like Lauren Oliver's Before I Fall. I know, I could go on with this forever. But so that's a starter list. Definitely check out my Facebook or my website. I tend to, if I love a book, tend to say that I love a book, so that will have a more up-to-date thing.